can.
Yes, now we can. Perfect. Thank you so much, Dr. Goodall.
Honestly, what a nightmare. So should I start now?
Absolutely. It's wonderful to see and hear you.
Okay. Well, first of all, greetings to everybody. And I want to bring in to represent all the billions of beings who haven't been mentioned at all today with regard to human consciousness. And here's the voice to represent the others. Simply means me, Jane, and chimpanzee. Well, as we all know, we're going through very dark times as this COVID-19 pandemic sweeps around the world. So much suffering as people fall sick, including doctors and nurses on the front line, working selflessly to help others. The tragedy is that we've not learned from past pandemics of this sort, even though we know how they originate, even though the one we're experiencing now has been long predicted. As we destroy the natural world, we bring animals into closer and closer contact and enable viruses to spread from one species to another. The meat markets where wild animals are sold for food create conditions that enable viruses to jump from an animal to a human and create a new mutation, such as this COVID-19. And epidemics are being created also by close contact between people and domestic animals in confined conditions. During my 85 years on planet Earth, I've witnessed the horrific harm that we've inflicted on the environment and the terrible cruelty that we've inflicted on each other. I've seen how wealthy countries have raped poorer countries for their natural resources, often leading to corrupt leaders becoming wealthy, while vast numbers of the population fall ever deeper into poverty and desperation, so that many, including children, are forced to work long hours in the fields, or making garments, or working in dangerous conditions in the mines. They make just enough to keep them alive, so that we can buy cheap goods, and the rich can get richer. Today, we should think about the growing gap between the haves and the have-nots, the crippling poverty, not just in the poorer countries, but in the wealthiest. Homeless people in London and New York sleep on streets where the wealthy walk past without a thought to ride the elevator to luxury apartments and champagne dinners. So many of us take things for granted. We buy food in the supermarket and waste a lot. There's always water in the tap or to flush the toilet. Yet there are millions of people living close to death from lack of food, getting sick from contaminated water, and now fleeing from parts of the world that have become uninhabitable because of the climate crisis. And the climate crisis is having the most devastating effect on the poor. It's not only from war and persecution that refugees flee today. Millions seek refuge from an environment that has become increasingly hostile. And they meet hostility of a crueler kind in the places where they finally arrive. And on this first International Day of Consciousness, let us realize we're not the only sentient beings on the planet. In 1961, I was told at Cambridge University that there was a difference between us and other animals of kind, not degree, of kind, even between us and our closest biological and behavioral relative, the chimpanzee. Only we, I was told, had personalities, minds, and emotions. Fortunately, I'd been taught as a child that that simply wasn't true. My teacher was my dog, Rusty. Maybe you see him behind my shoulder here. Today, science acknowledges that humans are not the only sentient beings, and that animals too can feel pain, fear, joy, and grief. And we continually learn more and more about the amazing intelligence shown by animals from...
I see Jane has just been able to reconnect. Jane, if you could give us the closing words, that would be wonderful. Your words are so fantastic. If you could close, and then we will turn immediately to the video of the Kingdom of Bahrain.
Can you hear me?
We do hear you now, and we hope the connection holds up for the end of your statement.
Yes, it will. It's been, I don't know what happened to it today, honestly. Here we go. I just reached the end too. So we were talking about animal sentience and that they had personality, minds, and feelings. Each one has his or her personality and emotions and can feel pain, fear, despair. Let me end with my reasons for hope. We will get through this pandemic as we have got through others. Many of us will have realized as we are confined to our houses, as we face shortages of supplies, especially toilet paper, that we should no longer take our freedom and our health for granted, and that we should have more respect for the natural world. We shall then be better people, more understanding, more compassionate, more respectful of each other and of the other animals we share the planet with. This is the first International Day of Consciousness. Let it be a wake-up call so that every day of every year, we try to find ways to address inequality and make ethical choices in what we buy and eat and wear. We must allow that still small voice of consciousness to sound louder and louder until, when head and heart work in harmony, we shall finally attain our true human potential. And the little tiny bit I missed out in the middle, that I said, knowing animals are sentient. Let us pause to think of the billions of animals hunted in the wild, trafficked to be sold for food, for entertainment, to be tortured in medical and pharmaceutical research laboratories, and with the billions of animals treated as walking food in factory farms. Let us realize that each of these animals is a sentient being. Each one has his or her personality and emotions. Each one can feel pain, fear, and despair. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Dr. Goodall. And now the video from the Kingdom of Bahrain.